This is the Adidas X Crazyfast Plus. You already know that. But this is the X Crazyfast.1 and the .1 laceless. And in today's video, I'll tell you what's good and also not so good about them, and also tell you which of the 3 boots that I think you should buy. I'm JayMike, the man behind the cameras are now, and this is my review of the X Crazyfast.1. The Crazyfast.1 follows in the footsteps of the Plus and does many of the same things, but in a slightly less extreme way. That means that you also get the Aeropacity Speed Skin upper, so minus the Plus, which is basically this thin mono mesh base, and then it's covered by double layers of this see-through TPU film, instead of the single layer of TPU film that you get on the Crazyfast Plus. Now then on the inside, you also have the Aero cage, again minus the Plus, which is this suede-like skeleton adding stability, but it also has some cutouts to minimize the weight. And basically the whole upper package here is very similar to what you get in the Crazyfast Plus, at least in nature, but it's just a little bit more solid and less extreme, if you will. And also, of course, you get this one-piece look and feel to the upper because you have the prime knit color instead of that U-throat, classic tongue kind of jazz on the Plus. And the funny thing is that we've actually been used to the laceless option being the Plus, the one with laces being .1, but now they've both been turned into the .1s. And actually, both models, they feel, well, at least 99.9% identical, to the point where it feels like they made this bad boy by taking the laceless, punching holes in it, adding laces, and that was that.
Engineering.
Anyways, when it comes to the way they fit, I expected them to feel a lot like the Speedportals, and they mostly do, giving you that tight, relatively streamlined sensation. But the toe box feels a bit higher and has a bit more volume than the Speedportal Pluses, and also, thankfully, Adidas fixed the foam package in the heel, meaning that it's not as obnoxiously thick and chunky anymore. That's a really good thing. But I would say that by and large, they feel like you would expect a pair of Speedportals with a new upper to feel, more or less. The way they feel, however, is a little bit different from the Speedportals, because the Crazyfast.1s here, they feel a little bit more plasticky and ever so slightly more firm and structured compared to the Speedportal Pluses. And I will also say that they feel a bit more stiff and, solid compared to the Crazyfast Plus than I had initially expected. I expected it to be a little bit closer, basically. On the flip side though, they also definitely feel thinner and more soft and malleable than the Speedportal .1s. So that's a good thing. And the other good thing is that the upper here will soften up as you start to break them in, you start to play in them, and the body heat from your foot starts to heat up the material. And it will become pretty nice and soft like you would want. The bad thing, however, is that whole process is not as effortless as it is on the Crazyfast Plus, which is really plug and play. Now, as for lockdown, it's obviously going to be better and more secure in the .1 with laces, where it's pretty decent. It's not first in class, but it's not falling behind either, so it works. And when we're talking about sizing, I went with my usual UK 6.5 in Adidas, and I did feel that they ran a little bit long in the .1s, but on the other hand, going down half a size, I mean, it's possible you could do it, but I just found it to be a little bit too tight and claustrophobic for me, even with my relatively slim foot. Now, as for the width, it is pretty accommodating if you're okay with a snug-ish fit.
When we flip the .1, it's identical to both the Crazyfast Plus and the Speedportal because it also features the Speedframe outsole.
And like the last couple of Speedportal colorways, you get this aero plate, this rigid plastic insert instead of Carbotex. And while I'm still sad to wave goodbye to Carbotex as it passes away in the distance, well, I mean, it is still a really good tooling. It has this wonderful, super aggressive snapbacks and very good stud shapes, and it just feels really nice and lovely and responsive when you push off and cut to change direction. No complaints there. Now, as always, this raised toe in the forefoot, it will split opinion, but for me, it kind of feels like you get rolled onto your forefoot just before you push off, and it adds this natural feeling of being on your toes and being ready, which I really like. And I know that it might all just be happening inside my brain. But hey, if it's stupid, but it works, it's not stupid.
As for the touch, adidas are focused on a natural feel, and thus you get a bit of texture from the mono mesh itself.
That means a close and sharp and direct feel on the ball, which is on the more matte and gritty side when it comes to the texture, to the point where you get a very consistent feel when dribbling no matter the weather. And it feels like a nice balance because it's never too much or too sticky either. Now what you will need to get used to though is this raised angle on the toe box that just feels a little bit higher than you would find in other boots.
And that is actually a pretty beautiful segue into 4 annoying things that you also need to know about.
See, that toe box volume and height that I just mentioned made my initial touches feel just a little bit awkward until at least I adjusted. And it's not a deal breaker, but I just thought you should know. And then there is the knit color, which is kind of weird to include here because it's actually pretty nice, but it also means that you have fewer options to adjust the boot compared to a classic U-throat and a standard tongue like you get on Crazyfast Plus. At least if the boot doesn't really fit the shape of your foot. If it does, it's not a problem. And then there's the upper, which for me just needs that extra break-in time to really soften up because of that slightly more rigid, firm feel. Especially compared to the Crazyfast Plus and also some of the other speed boot options out there that just have softer uppers out of the box. It's just a bit iffy that you need a bit more patience here. And finally, there is the price. See, the Crazyfast.1 with laces is €260, whereas the laceless option is €270. But given the fact that, at least to me, they seem more or less identical, bar the laces, why do I have to pay €10 more to get the privilege of having the laces taken out? I mean, what?
But honestly, what you should pay more for is, in my book at least, the Plus.
Because in my book, it is just far superior to the 2.1s. It has a softer upper, it feels more streamlined, it has this more natural feeling low pointy toe box. I feel that the heel package with the foam is better, feels more comfortable, and overall, it just feels like a slightly more finely tuned speed machine. And to me, at least, it's one of the best adidas speed boots they've made since 2015 alongside the X Speedflows. And yeah, I know that the Plus version is 30–40 euros more expensive. But to me, it's worth it. And if you in any way have the option to upgrade from the 0.1 to the Plus, I would do it without hesitating for 1 second. It's great. But if you like the Speedportals, the Crazyfast.1s will feel kinda similar and better in some places if you show them a little bit of love and give them some time to break in. And there's still a solid, pretty streamlined and responsive option. But the big question is, guys, what do you think about the Crazyfast and the Pluses versus the 0.1s? Well, as always, let me know in the comment section right down below. And then remember that you can buy all of the Crazyfast boots, the Pluses and the 0.1s in the link to Unisport right over there. Of course, also, don't forget to subscribe with the notifications on. And with those words, I'll be signing off. Cheerio!